A sensational house with a yard in need. The new homeowners hope a winding waterfall and swimmable pond will give the yard some character and make a big splash with the 6 children in the house. Hello, welcome to Groundbreakers. I'm Joe Washington. John and Sonia watched from a distance as this beautiful house went up in their neighborhood. And when it became available, they made an offer. It was rejected. Now, for most people, that's where the story would end. But not John and Sonia.
Eventually, the house went up for auction. And so we had my husband, he went to the auction, and we got it for 20% less than 20% less.
And you probably hey, if you'd taken our money, you could have got 20% more.
20% more.
Oh, well.
So we decided to take what we saved and put it in the house.
So you kind of look at the house and you go, oh, the house is fantastic, and then you look down at the yard and you go, oh.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and the junipers, I don't know, I just can't stand junipers. And so we wanted color too. I wanted color. I think that it just makes a house when you see some color. And
a lot of green.
yeah.
That's about it.
That's about it. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Along with a front yard makeover to add color and curb appeal, work will also wrap around to the backyard. It's small and steeply sloped, with nothing of interest for a house full of children. So how many kids are we talking about here?
We're talking about a total of 6. We have our daughter.
We have one child.
Then we have my wife's niece, and then I have three great nieces and a great nephew that came and live with us on a temporary basis.
So you're test driving 5 kids, basically. Right?
Yeah.
So you needed this house.
We needed it, and the basement totally finished before we could move in.
Right. Once John and Sonia did move in, they knew right away that the backyard would need something.
When we first saw this house, I was like, there's not much we could do with it. The whole yard slopes upward. I didn't know what we could do with it. My husband had talked about moving out all the dirt back here, but I don't know. And then I came across a website, and they specialized in waterfalls and ponds, and so then it was like, oh, okay.
Was a swimming pool ever on the radar screen, so to speak?
It was a consideration with me, but due to all the rocks that's buried in the side of this hill, it was kind of financially constraining because it costs just as much to move the rocks as it would to put the pool in. So.
Plus, he had said he didn't want the upkeep of a pool. So what we had asked the landscaper was to do maybe a pond, and if the kids could play in the pond. And so it was really neat that they're going to make it deep enough so that they can play and just have a ball.
John and Sonia have even bigger plans to make the house home for their extended family, but some of it will have to wait. Okay, we talked about the kids playing in the pond, but do they get anything else out of this deal?
They said they want a play area, but I asked them to fork up some money too. If they want to. So.
He always is talking about that, you know. He says, you know, you guys don't have a job, you don't. Until when you get a job and pay a mortgage, then you can get what you want.
What you want.
No, we were talking about getting a play area.
Play area up on the far left side of the yard.
Yeah.
Okay.
On the hill.
So that's going to be like our phase 2 project.
John and Sonia have created the perfect home for their full house. Now they want the exterior to live up to the interior. I recently met with their landscape designer to go over the plan for making it a spot the whole family can enjoy. How much water in a pond this size?
Joe, we'd estimate there's probably 6,000 to 8,000 gallons.
Wow. I'm here with landscape designer George Allen. And George, John and Sonia have made a lot of improvements in the inside of their home, but there's really nothing to draw them outside. What do you have planned for them?
What we plan on doing is utilizing the slope to provide a natural stream that will come all the way down the slope into a water feature, utilizing 3 different waterfalls as it cascades down the hill. When I first got to the house and I saw that slope, I thought, boy, this is just perfect for having a water feature that could be viewed from inside the house.
Right, no point in letting it go to waste. Now, what kind of maintenance is involved in a pond this size?
We plan on chlorinating the water so that the children can play in the water, so it'll be fairly simple.
That's great. Now, what's your choice for plants back here? I think I see some palm trees.
Yes, we're going to utilize windmill palms. They do very well in areas that are not even considered tropical areas. Then we have deer cedars that will be the top of the slope, an evergreen base for the very back. Japanese maple to provide some interest at the front of one of these falls. Then we've got woodland plants at the very front.
Very nice. Well, looks like the kids are going to get a place to splash around in. And John's going to have one big happy family. Stay with us. When we come back, John finds himself in the middle of a disagreement between the designer and his foreman on the very first day.
This program brought...
Welcome back to Groundbreakers. John told his wife Sonia that since they got such a good deal on their new home, she could do whatever she wants to the yard. Now, what she wants is a place where she can relax and spend time with the whole family. She's about to get her wish as work is underway. The first thing to go? Most of the front foundation plantings. While one crew digs up the front, another team is in the backyard, clearing plants off the slope. Landscape designer George Allen sprays out the basic outline for what will eventually be a massive water feature surrounded by new plants. A 15 by 20 foot swimming pond that begins on the top of the hill as a single tiny waterfall.
To the left of the waterfall, we're going to have an 8-foot windmill palm because we were blending some tropical and natural elements in this water feature. Then it's going to roll to our second waterfall. We'll have a Japanese maple that will be sweeping over the pond of the second waterfall. It's going to come down a little bit further to the third waterfall that's going to drop into the pond.
George goes over the plan with the project foreman, Josh, who also happens to be his son. It's just painted lines on the ground now, but George is thinking about the finished landscape.
Well, I can already feel the water coming down.
Soon, the crew is busy digging a trench that will be used later to hide the pond and waterfall plumbing. Homeowner John stops by to see how the first day of work is going, and he walks right into a father-son disagreement about how to transition from the existing deck to the new pond.
Do you want to take a step that long? As long as that? That's a long step. That is a long step.
No, it's not. It really isn't. Because what you're doing is you're opening this space up.
You are opening that up, but that means you're stretching the area that you can bring your pond up.
Let me see what you got in mind.
I would go from like here to here.
No.
That's a big step.
No.
Two people can walk down on that comfortably.
You need to come out the lease here with your staff.
They agree to wait, and will decide on the size of the steps and how much deck railing to remove once the pond is in. George and John shift their focus to the side yard, where a decision still needs to be made about the walkway leading to the basement.
I don't want it that wide, maybe what, 36 inches wide? When people come up there, they track this grass into the basement, and I just spent too much money getting that thing done.
Well, there's the pavers, which we can match the brick as close as we can, or we could use large flagstones, flat stones, to walk up.
Okay, for that distance and that width, how much is that going to cost?
I'll have to work that out.
Thank you. That's what I want to know. Bottom line is all I want to know.
For now, the only thing they know for sure is that they need a really big hole for the pond. The crew starts digging, throwing the excavated soil up the hillside to help build the falls. Materials are already being dropped off on site by the end of a very busy day one.
Well, we're finishing up the excavation of the water feature, cutting out the waterfalls, and then digging the pond. We've received about half of the rock that we'll use in the water feature, as well as the liner, underlayment, and skimmer. We've laid the pipe, and we'll have the liner and skimmer put in today, and be ready to start laying some rock tomorrow.
And as promised, rock work is soon underway. A track loader helps lower the larger boulders into position along the falls. Smaller rocks are placed by hand and then adjusted for a stable fit. Josh, meanwhile, makes sure the crew knows what the finished pond is supposed to look like.
Yeah, you just want this to make sure that when we finish, we can have 3 foot of water. This side's going to have pea gravel that goes all the way down, and you can just walk into it without stepping down or anything.
Oh, cool.
By the third week of work, several sections of the stream and waterfall are done. New deodar cedars have been planted to offer a natural look to the man-made landscape. Work continues on the pond as the crew installs the heavy vinyl liner. Then it's time for more rock. The boulders have been spread out across the driveway so that each one can be selected as it's needed according to size and shape. The track loader comes in handy once again, with Josh behind the controls and directing the rock placement.
You can push it more like that where it can sit against that rock, that way it'll be stable.
Even with the heavy machinery, sometimes it comes down to using chains, straps, and good old-fashioned muscle to get each rock exactly where the crew wants it.
All right. Yeah, it's really right here.
And as the pond comes together, one rock at a time, one of the homeowners finally gets her first real taste of her new backyard.
It was a little slow going in the beginning because all I'd see is dirt moved back and forth, but when I guess the moment that everything was really going together was when I saw the big old huge rocks they were placing, and I couldn't wait till next day to see what's going to happen.
But she doesn't have to wait long. Palm trees arrive on site that afternoon. A tropical touch Sonia originally didn't want in the design, but one John talked her into.
I love the palm trees. I love the palm trees. My wife couldn't see it initially, but she sees it now that we're coming to completion. Now she sees that everything's coming together, and she likes the palm trees.
With those palm trees in place, the backyard's starting to look like a tropical resort. But the windmill palm that John and Sonia picked out can actually take temperatures as low as 10 degrees. So it'll feel like the beach, even if there's snow on the ground. Stay with us. When we come back, the crew fights to keep this backyard waterfall from becoming a washout.
Hi, I'm Bob Beeler. Hi, Bob.
Hi.
Bob.
Welcome back to Groundbreakers. John and Sonia watched this house go up and loved it so much they bought it. What they don't love is the yard the house sits on. There's nothing to complement the beautiful home and nothing to do for John, Sonia, or their 6 children. But that is about to change. Work crews are 3 weeks into the project that will put a big swimmable pond just a few steps off the backyard deck. The pond will be fed by a stream and 3 waterfalls that have been built on the adjacent hillside. Now workers are busy putting in new plants that will make the entire feature look like a natural one that was here even before the house. But work is also going on in front of the house. John and Sonia feel like they need some tall plants and lots of color to make the small yard fit in with the architecture of the house. First up, a row of tall evergreens against the base of the porch. They have beautiful dark green foliage that stands out against the brick. But right now, project foreman Josh Allen is more concerned with the space between the trees.
They're setting all the trees 2 foot 4 inches on center from each other, and then 17 inches on center from the house. So they'll all be exactly the same, just have a nice structural look when it finishes.
Also going in this bed are roses with bright pink blooms and Indian hawthorn, which will flower white in spring and summer. Their glossy green leaves will provide a backdrop for an annual bed scheduled to be planted later in the project. In the backyard, the pond has been filled, and it's time to test all of the plumbing to make sure the waterfall works properly. There's a complicated mess of pipes involved, all designed to create the illusion of a naturally occurring stream.
This is the main line, which will run all the way up to the beginning of the stream and always have pressure on it. And also, for the big fall, to ensure that I have enough water flow coming over it, I've installed another pipe that'll run directly to it to control the amount of water pressure that's coming over the large fall, to just to create the look that I'm going for.
That is, if it all works. With crew members holding the pipes together, landscape designer George Allen orders the water turned on for the first test. And a second test. But the third time's the charm, and water flows downstream, over the falls, and into the pond for the first time. It meets with the approval of the young swimmers in waiting, and the centerpiece of John and Sonia's new backyard landscape is almost done. Except for one last thing.
One of the things that we've incorporated into the whole plan is removing part of this rail of the deck. And the purpose is we want 2 things. One is that the viewing area from inside the house would be unobstructed, so that when they're inside, this rail won't block the view of the stream and the waterfalls and the plant material. But the other thing too is that we're going to have steps built at the base of the deck so that you can step right down off the deck right into the pond.
But that will come last. The 4th week is spent on some of the other final details of the project. Colorful annuals have been planted in front where only plain green junipers lived before. There's certainly more curb appeal out front, but now that the backyard waterfall is finished, that is what really has Sonia's friends and neighbors talking.
people come up, or my friends come up, and the front yard is nice, that's pretty, but they really are jaw-dropped at the backyard. When they come in, they see the water feature, that's what draws them. That's what really floors them.
This beautiful water feature would seem to be a big hit with everyone, even if it hasn't been enjoyed to its fullest quite yet.
The kids love it. They love it. They've been out here looking, lusting to get in. I've held them at bay until the water circulates and cleans itself out. But they're loving it. They're just chomping at the bit to get in there.
It won't be long as the crew spreads a layer of pine straw mulch in the planting beds, and sod goes down in the backyard for an instantly lush lawn. The side yard doesn't change at all. John and Sonia couldn't decide between brick pavers and natural stones for a walkway to the basement entrance, so for now they put that part of the plan on hold. The last thing to be done is the thing that George and his son Josh couldn't agree on back on the first day of work. George wanted 16 feet of railing removed all the way to the house, with one long step down to the gravel beach. Josh pushed for a shorter step to allow for more actual pond. It looks like youth has won out. The middle section of railing has been taken down, just 8 feet, with a single step spanning the opening. Well, it's down to the final details as this landscape transformation is almost complete. When we come back, we'll take a tour with the man who designed it. And then the homeowners weigh in. What's better, the curb appeal out front or the kid appeal in back?
It's not
Hello and welcome back to Groundbreakers. When John and Sonia bought this house a few months ago, they complained that the yard lacked character. Well, landscape designer George Allen has certainly changed that. Great to see you again, George.
Nice to see you, Joe.
George, let's step back a little bit and talk about what this yard looked like in the very beginning.
When we first got here, the house was a beautiful house, but the landscape in the front was very plain, didn't have much curb appeal. Then when I was brought to the back of the house, I saw this real large slope that faced the house, but it didn't have a very nice presentation. There were a lot of junipers on the slope, so we wanted to do something a little bit more unique.
Well, you have. You've changed the whole scope here. Let's talk about what you did, and let's start with the front yard.
Well, first of all, we brought in arborvitae at the very top of the slope to soften that high look from the road and also provide an evergreen, warm look year-round for the front of the house. Then we brought in plants that would provide year-round color, flowers and shrubs that would bloom that would have a lot of color for the front of the house.
Well, that looks terrific, but I tell you what, the backyard is really the star of the show. Tell me what you did back there.
Well, John and Sonia allowed us to have a little freedom to build a stream that started at the very top of the slope. And we brought in several different types of stones to provide a real natural-looking stream that would come down and come into 3 different waterfalls that would face the back of the house. And then we brought in several different plants, natural woodland type of plants as well as tropical plants to blend that natural tropical type of look.
I want to talk more about the plants shortly, but tell me about the beach access. That really kicks off that pond.
Well, we want to provide access for the children to be able to get in the pond. So we provided 2 beaches on each side of the pond where the children could just walk right into the pond. And then also we took down part of this rail so that the children could actually step directly from the deck onto a step down to a landing into the pool.
I really like the selection of plants. Tell me what you used.
Well, we utilized the dead-air cedar, which is a really nice, majestic, graceful plant. Has a weeping, pendulous look to it. During the summer, it also gets that bluish hue to it. Then we brought in windmill palms. We like to blend natural and tropical type of elements. The windmill palms actually does well in this area and areas where it's not really known to be tropical areas. And then we also brought in plants that are called horsetail reed. They look like bamboo, but not quite as invasive.
Yeah, well, I know John and Sonia are happy. They've got a yard they can use, and I'm going to go talk to them now. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Well, hello again. Good to see you, Sonia.
Hey, how you doing?
Great. John, great to see you.
Good to see you.
I know you bought this house in spite of the yard. What do you think now?
Oh, it is a total transformation. I just love it.
Now, Sonia, again, I know you always wanted a waterfall. How does this stack up with what you imagined?
It's beyond what I imagined. He picked the perfect rocks. I love the rocks. The plants, they really, he put them together, it turned out beautiful.
Now, I know it's the front of the house that really grabbed you, but the front yard left something to be desired. So the question is, what's your favorite part now, the backyard or the front yard?
Well, the front yard now, I mean, it really matches the overall presence of the home. You know, it's beautiful. I love that. But my favorite, without a doubt, is the back.
Slam dunk.
Oh, yes.
Right. Now, John, I know you've always been conscious of the bottom line here, but are you still within your original offer for the house?
Well within our original offer for the house.
Wow.
So we're happy. We got everything we wanted for a lot less than original offer for the house.
It's still a good deal.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, everything you wanted, including the palm trees, huh?
Including the palm trees.
Yeah, what's your favorite part of this stuff?
The water feature. I enjoy coming out in the mornings and at night and looking and just listening. So peaceful.
It always comes back to that.
Yes.
Yeah, and I don't have to ask you that question because we already know. What about the kids? Now, how are they enjoying
The
this?
kids love it. We have to supervise them, keep them off the rocks and everything, but they love coming out and playing. It's like their little oasis in the middle of a desert.
All right, well, we're going to take one last look at this project before and after. Sonia, thank you.
Thank you.
John, thank you for making us a part of this. And thank you for joining us again on Groundbreakers. Join us again next time as we take part in another great landscape transformation. Goodbye.